Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I figured we can take a look at my Sega Genesis collection. It's been quite a long time since I've done any kind of a collection video on my channel, and I figured, well, I love the Genesis, it's one of my favorite consoles of all time. Why don't we take a look at my Sega Genesis collection for a video? So I'm just going to go through like the overall collection and kind of give you a broad overview and pick out some games as we go through for recommendations. Just be forewarned, there are some games in here that I haven't had a chance to play yet, because a few years ago I did acquire quite a sizable pickup for my collection through a local pickup, and I've been slowly working my way through a lot of the games that I added to my collection since then. So how about we start from the top right? We'll end the video with my 32X collection, but let's start up here and work my way through. So starting off here, we've got Splatterhouse 2 and 3. These games are actually, especially 2, are really hard to get in good condition. As you can see, even my copy has a crease through the back of the artwork there. It did help me get this for a really good price at the time, but Splatterhouse 2 especially it was a big rental game, so actually getting a copy of that in nice condition is quite difficult. Splatterhouse 3, I would recommend you try playing this game with an arcade stick for the Genesis, because the inputs that you have to do while you play that are quite difficult. Now you might be like, now why do you have several copies here of Sonic 2? So this is the normal retail copy of Sonic 2 that you would find in stores, and then this is a Megadrive version of Sonic 2. And then this one here is actually one of the rarest games in my entire Genesis collection, and that is the version of Sonic 2 that not a lot of people even know exists, and that is a cardboard box variant, which is I have wrapped in plastic here. But this is a cardboard box variant for Sonic 2 with a nice checkerboard pattern with that cardboard hang tab. Really hard to find this. Not a lot of people are even aware that it exists, and it's hard to find in good condition. Of course, the Genesis collection wouldn't be complete without Crusader of Senti, which I picked up many years ago, before the game is as hard to get as it is today. One of my personal favorite Sega Genesis games growing up, and still now. If you're looking for Genesis recommendations, this is one of the best recommendations I can give you, which is Mazin Saga Mutant Fighter. Really awesome action beat-em-up that blends sort of kaiju style one-on-one fighting with some really great weight to it during the combat. Of course, we've got 2 of my favorite Sonic games on the Genesis, but I do definitely have quite the affinity for Mean Bean Machine, one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. Yes, it is just Puyo Puyo, but I love the Robotnik aesthetic to it as well. I finally got the chance to play Comix Zone for the first time since I played it on the Sega channel several years ago, and wow, I was just blown away, absolutely blown away by the animation in that game. So moving on through here, we've got Virtual Bart. This game gets kind of slammed a little bit, but I'm actually a huge fan of Virtual Bart. The tomato throwing minigame, I don't know if they show it on the back here, but I love the tomato throwing minigame in here. I should really revisit this sometime, and this game is kind of known for having the cart labels peel on it. It kind of lifts up with the cheap glue that they used on it. Alright, let's see what we've got here. Oh, here. I haven't been able to secure a manual and a cart for this yet, but this is actually one of the hardest to get Genesis games complete in box. Really hard to find the box for this game, Kawasaki Superbike. I kind of just had the box sitting around in my collection for the longest time, and one day I was like, wow, that's actually really rare. Still trying to piece it together though. Sonic 3, probably my third favorite Sonic, Sonic 1, 2, and 3. It would actually probably go Sonic 3, then 1, then 2 for, the main 3, and then Sonic and Knuckles would fall somewhere in there if I haven't gave it too much thought. I'm a big fan of Balls. Balls 3D, one of my favorite fighting games on the Genesis. A lot of people don't like this game, but at the time I found the 3D visuals to actually be really stunning, and one of the, sort of games that was definitely worth the high price tag. I was so happy when I got this when I was younger, because this was not a cheap game. I was very thankful. Hyperstone Heist, probably my favorite TMNT game out of the ones that I've played. And then we've got a little selection of Renovation Games here, the ones that I would recommend the most from ones I've played so far. Arcus Odyssey, absolutely fantastic, fast-paced, top-down, isometric action RPG. Almost dropping it there. This shelf here is just a tad tight. Let's hope I can slip it back in. There we go. Probably my favorite Renovation game, and this is one that not a lot of people mention, or sorry, not Renovation, Treco. Sorcerer's Kingdom, one of the best RPGs on the Genesis that nobody talks about. I've actually done speedruns for this game. I can beat it in a couple hours. This is actually my grandfather's copy, so this copy means quite a bit to me. Then, of course, we've got Warsong, which has some of the best music on the Genesis. Growl, which is a pretty okay beat-em-up, quite a hard game to find. Genesis Collection would not be complete without Musha, of course. But one shoot-em-up that I want to draw a bit more attention to, because everybody already knows about Musha. This game here I played for the first time a couple years ago and absolutely loved it. Some of my favorite songs on the entire Sega Genesis library. It's only several levels long, but it is quite difficult. I still have not been able to beat it. I get to the last level and always just get blown up. But an amazing shoot-em-up. And may actually be my favorite shoot-em-up on the Genesis, Biohazard Battle. I know there's a lot more rare shoot-em-ups out there, but I've always kind of come back to this as one of my favorites in the entire console. One of my probably top 10 Genesis games, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think a lot of shoot-em-ups kind of nail the organic, monster-esque alien world feel like Biohazard Battle. Of course, we've got a sort of another shoot-em-up shelf there, coming back into the... And if you haven't noticed by now, my games are not in alphabetical order. I do apologize. The reason I do that is because A, I'm too lazy to move games around anytime I get new ones and have to change the alphabetical order, but at the same time, it makes you look through your collection, and say you're looking for a specific game, you're forced to kind of look through your whole collection, and you might actually find something else that you forgot you had or want to play instead. So I do categorize it by red spines, though, and kind of separate it that way. So when I was younger, this actually isn't my original copy of Sonic & Knuckles, but when I was younger, I took the box. This was the first cardboard box that I got for the Genesis. So I actually cut up the box to put it in the clamshell to match all my other clamshells on the shelf. I know, quite the travesty. Another one of my personal favorites that I don't think gets enough love is Zoop, one of the best puzzle games. Absolutely love the music. The Genesis version is actually quite extremely hard compared to other versions of Zoop. If you want an easier time playing Zoop, play the Super Nintendo version. But a lot of the other versions of Zoop are quite different when it comes to PS1 and Saturn and everything. This was a funny one. I remember I was actually shopping for this game on eBay, and I noticed how expensive it was getting, and then I was like, One day I was just looking through my Genesis collection, and I found that I actually own the game already. That's how you know you might have a little too many games, when you are actively shopping for a game, looking for a deal, and then you forgot that you actually owned it already. Haven't gotten around to playing it yet, though. I hear it's quite good for how ambitious it was at the time. One thing you're going to notice, too, I'm actually not sure how this got in here. Is this a sports game? Okay, no, that's probably why I put it in there. I wasn't sure if that was a sports game or not, but I have no sports games in here. So I actually have about 40-ish, maybe a little bit more than that, sports games that I've kind of just got scattered about and in bins, because I just don't have the room to put all the sports games here. So my Genesis collection is a bit larger than this, and this is just without all my sports games, of which just kind of have come in lots over the years, and I haven't really touched. All right, before we move into the bottom of that shelf, you guys remember this? Man, what an old YouTube video that I did back in the day, where I was super excited for Pure Solar, and I did a huge YouTube video for this game, kind of hyping it up, and apparently it helped Watermelon Games sell a ton of copies of Pure Solar, which is kind of funny. It was not, at the time, no one was being sponsored or paid or nothing like that. I was just super excited for a brand new RPG, and this kind of helped spark the big craze of homebrew games coming out on consoles like the Genesis and the Super Nintendo and all that. Pure Solar was one of the first ones to do it. Still very impressive. Genesis version definitely needed a lot of patching, though, to make it a bit more playable. All right, now we're moving on to more Red Spine games. A lot of these here are actually kind of recent pickups, so some of these I haven't had a chance to play yet. But if you have any recommendations, if you're looking at these, like I want to play that Scooby-Doo game one of these Octobers. I'm excited to play Pinocchio. That's probably one of my more recent pickups from about a year ago. I haven't bought too many Genesis games lately because I'm pretty content with what I've got right now. Zool, a childhood favorite of mine. Big fan of it, as well as the Jaguar game, even though I do think those are a little too difficult for their own good. Here we have a bit of a cardboard box shelf with a pretty rare variant, actually, of Sonic 3. This is a little bit hard to get, the Mega Hits version of this. I'm just going to put that aside. It's kind of hard for me to do this with one hand. And then this here is a version of Sonic Spinball that not a lot of people realize is kind of hard to get to, which is a cardboard box variant of Sonic Spinball. Still got to play Batman and Robin. I hear it's quite hard, but the visuals are amazing. The Ooze, I remember playing this a long time ago. It might have actually been a Sega Channel game that I played, but I remember having a hard time playing that. It was hard as heck. And then this here, one of the only Genesis games that I'm aware of that uses a horizontal box art style like this. This is also a very hard to get game on the Sega Genesis. And I hear good things, so if I ever play a pool game, that's going to be one of them. And for those that don't know, Marsupilami actually got revived recently for modern consoles with a new game, and who knows how, probably since the Genesis game. Alright, moving on down here. Arrow the Acrobat, one of my favorites growing up. I do apologize for the glare. I do have to put a lamp kind of down here because it gets kind of dark. It's not in the direct light, and my lights have a hard time hitting it over here, so I apologize for that. But Arrow the Acrobat is, man, it probably hasn't aged that great, but I remember really liking that game when I was younger. Here's another weird one that I picked up a copy of again. I used to have this and then I sold it and then I reacquired it. I just love these really weird monster fighters that are on the Genesis, and I remember playing Fighting Masters a long time ago. I'm super excited to jump back into that. Let's see here, anything that I want to highlight. Some of these are kind of recent pickups or from that big lot that I got, or conventions. DJ Boy was a really interesting beat 'em up that I played. It was kind of fun. I enjoy my odd beat 'em up every once in a while. Devilish, though, let me see if I can take this out of here, is one of my new favorite Sega Genesis games. Potential to even be top 10. I love this game. It's sort of like a pinball action game, breakout game. It's kind of a mishmash of a lot of genres. Incredibly difficult, but oh man, I love the music. I love the challenge. I've actually done speedruns of that as well. At one point I had the world record. Let's see, Kid Chameleon, of course, a classic. Heavy Nova, probably the worst Sega Genesis game I've played. That game was horrible. I played that about a year ago. Was not a fan. Marble Madness, I enjoyed the Genesis version of Marble Madness. Hard as heck. Finally, well, actually, did I beat it? I don't think I beat it. I think I always got to the last level and then got demolished. Wings of War, another one of my favorite childhood shoot-'em-ups. Incredibly hard, never beat it. I kind of been wanting to go back and try the modern console version that's on PS4. Hit the Ice is the only sports game that I actually have showing in the collection because it's kind of rare. It's from Taito, and it's pretty good. It's actually my most recent. Waldo and Hit the Ice there I picked up a year ago. Those are my most recent additions to the collection. Alright, let's jump back up here. And let's see where we left off. I think we left off here. So, dinosaurs. Man, I remember this game when I was younger. It's been a little bit since I played it. This was another one of my grandfather's games. And I just love the cover on this. This is an action game we play as well. Dinosaurs with guns. Dinosaurs for hire. Great game, actually better than I remembered it being. Socket, another pretty good, underrated platformer. Of course, one of those Sonic-likes. And speaking of Sonic-likes, if you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog and if you've never played High Seas Havoc, this is pretty much like how to copy Sonic 101. It almost feels exactly and looks exactly like a Sonic game in many instances, but it's still a pretty good game. Oh yeah, see, what I like to do, I found this at Comic-Con actually a few years ago. I like to leave the prices on that I paid for games. It's a lot of fun to kind of look back and be like, wow, look at how much I paid for that, and that's a great price for Contra. And I also did a bundle deal on that, so I saved quite a bit. This is probably one of my I have to get around to it sometime games. Look at this, I paid $40 for a complete copy of Shadowrun, and I think I even got a better deal on this for like $30 or something. This was from another convention. This is one of my top priority, I need to get around to it sometime, Genesis games. Space Harrier 2, a lot of fun. I love games that kind of like fake a 3D perspective. Quite a hard game though, from what I remember. And one of my all-time favorites, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Love the cover, love the gameplay. Have a lot of fond memories playing this when I was younger, especially in co-op. Incredibly hard though. I don't think I ever beat it. Like, actually, really hard game. As you get closer towards the end. Midnight Resistance, a lot of fun, great action game. It's got a really fun song, one of the best songs on the Genesis. A lot of these I have played, like Galahad. I don't remember too much though. Like, there's a lot of Genesis games I played many years ago, and some of my memory on them is a little hazy. Two Career Dudes, though, another one of my childhood favorites. Absolutely love this one. One of my favorite beat-em-ups for sure. I revisited this recently, and it still holds up. It's a great game. Castle of Illusion, of course, a Genesis classic. Loved that when I was younger. I was a huge fan, actually, of Street Fighter 2 growing up. Blanco was my main. And this here, I think I played this more than Street Fighter 2, and that was Splotter Sport. I played this recently, and man, what a weird game it is, but I love it. The enemies in here are just so weird and wacky. If you're looking for something a bit different for your Genesis collection and you're a fan of fighting games, Slaughter Sport is definitely what I would recommend. I actually prefer the Golden Axe games over Streets of Rage. I know I'm going to probably catch a little bit of flack for that one. Let's see here, which one of these? Phantasy Star 2. I played that for the first time many years ago, actually, and I tried to play it without a guide and maps, and it was miserable. Playing Phantasy Star 2 without maps in general, or any kind of slate walkthrough, is really hard to do. I did like the music, I liked the style, but that is a hard game to play. Very difficult. Alright, moving on down. I'm going to have to actually get down on my knees here. Oh, man. We got Risky Woods. This was an interesting one. Love the cover on this. A lot of these EA's action platformers, though, are very hit or miss for me from the ones I've played. They're fun for like 30 minutes to an hour. I can't get this back in there. We're just gonna... Some of these shelves, as you can see, I'm like squeezing these games in here just barely. Some of these action platformers are kind of hit or miss for me, though. Fun for a little bit, and then they kind of die off. Look at this. I also got this from Comic-Con. $15 for a complete copy of Outrun. And this wasn't that long ago. It was an incredible steal. Great version. I had a lot of fun with it. I really enjoy the music that they used on the Genesis version. And one of my favorite new Genesis games, also really hard to find, Chase HQ 2 from Taito. Really short game. Look at this. I don't even show you screenshots on the back. You can beat the game in like 10 minutes, but it's a lot of fun. I would encourage you to do your own sort of like time attacks and upload it to speedrun.com to get more playtime. Also one of my new favorite Genesis games. I love Outrun 2019. Super fast. The sense of speed in this game is just unbelievable. I love the music, love the style. I know it wasn't originally an Outrun game, but to me, it still feels like Outrun. Let's see here. Shadow of the Beast. Oh, one of the hardest games I tried playing as a kid. And the Genesis version in the US is sped up, so this is probably like the hardest Genesis game that you can try playing. But oh man, I love the creature designs in there. I've played a lot of versions of Shadow of the Beast, including PC Engine CD and FM Towns Marty now as well. I think the PC Engine CD version is the best because I just kind of prefer the music. I know the music is a little controversial when it comes to Shadow of the Beast. Alright, I'm practically laying down on the ground here now, so we're getting down into the bottom shelves. Cool Spot. I'm a big fan of Cool Spot. Another classic growing up. And Golden Axe 1, Golden Axe 2 should be around here somewhere. I know, it's going to drive people crazy that I'm not putting these games in alphabetical order. I like Golden Axe 1, but I love Golden Axe 2 much more. Altered Beast, of course, a childhood favorite of mine. Still really enjoy it. I've had thoughts of doing speedruns of this, just to get more mileage out of playing the game more often. This is probably the scariest game I ever played on the Genesis when I was younger. Alien 3. Really scared the heck out of me. I mean, the aliens creeping up on you and the music, it was scary. Hopefully I'm not the only one that had that experience with Alien 3. Theme Park. My first version ever of Theme Park. Big game from my childhood. Also a really hard game to get complete in box for the Genesis. If you collect Genesis, you know what I'm talking about. Probably my favorite version just because the music is so nostalgic for me in there. The best playing version on console that I played, though, was the Jaguar version, just because the touchpad made it a lot easier to use shortcuts as you, did things throughout the game. Let's see here. Ooh, man, we got some more classics here. Decap Attack. Another one of my favorite all-time classics. Love the music and style in this. It just was sort of like a great little Halloween horror-esque game, and I had never played anything quite like it before on the Genesis. And I love the character design on, what's his name? Something like Max Decap. Oh wait, is that Max Decap. I remember his name was like a sort of funny pun. This is one of the most colorful Genesis games I've ever played. It's not necessarily one of the best, but the colors, I mean, look at the screenshots. It's not a very good game, but the colors just completely pop. Definitely would win an award for one of the most colorful games on the Sega Genesis. Except for maybe, which I didn't mean to skip over, but all the way up top there. Ronald McDonald from Treasure would probably be another one that might win that award. Alien Storm, probably my second, maybe third favorite beat 'em up that I've played. It's a big game from my childhood, so I'm a little bit biased with that. And one of the best recommendations that I can make on the Genesis if you're looking for new games to play, Bimini Run. Kind of hard to get, little uncommon, but it's got some amazing sprite scaling, and it's sort of like a semi-open world game with a mission structure. It can be short if you're just powering through it, but if you're not sure where you're going or you're getting stuck, like, it's a cool little experimental, slightly open world mission based game. I don't know how you would describe it. Looks like I crammed a lot of good ones down here on the bottom shelves. One day I might have to reorder these to put some of my favorites up top. Mystical Fighter, really hard game to get complete in box. I think I'm still missing the manual. But yeah, just a very by-the-books beat-em-up, but if you like the theme of Kabuki Warriors from Japan, it's kind of cool. Shadow of the Beast 2, not the biggest fan. I've played the Sega CD version of that, and I don't remember having too much of a good time. Fantasia, this game gets a lot of hate, but Fantasia is probably my favorite Disney movie growing up, so I'm actually just by default a big fan of this because I love Fantasia. Really hard game. Music's nostalgic for me in that, though. Let's see. Okay, here's Golden Axe 2. Also probably one of my favorite box arts on the Sega Genesis. Definitely a sort of like top 5 Sega Genesis game of all time for me, without a doubt. I just realized that we skipped a shelf. We'll have to pan back up once we're done with this one here. Really easy to kind of jump around by mistake. Game Ground, I played this one for the first time a few years ago and was really surprised. I enjoyed this a lot. Highly recommend this. It's a renovation game. I should have it by the other renovation games, but that's okay. EX or X Mutants, this is another game that I highly recommend. Kind of slept on by a lot of people. Kind of reminds you of a knockoff X-Men game, but it's super fun. Great music. Really weird enemy designs in here too for the bosses and stuff. Dynamite Duke, a nice short little first-person arcadey style game. You can beat it really quickly, but it's a fun little romp. And then the first ever game that I got with my Sega Genesis, Chakan the Forever Man. Yeah, imagine this being, along with Sonic, being the first game you got on your Genesis. It was given to me because I was a really big fan of horror and monsters, so this game kind of looked like it would fit that bill, and wow. What an awakening to hard video games. Chakan is known as one of the hardest games on the Sega Genesis, so that was quite the game to have as my first game on my collection. Excuse me. How did I skip over Sonic, right? Did I do Altered Beast? Do I have 2 copies of Altered Beast on these shelves? I don't know. I guess I just passed over these by mistake. But you're probably like, okay, why are there so many copies of Sonic here? Well, let me tell you. We have the different versions. So we have the normal retail version, right, where it doesn't say not for resale, but it's missing the ESRB. And then we have the not for resale version. This is the one that obviously, was not meant for resale, the one that most people have kind of bundled in. And then we have the ESRB version, which you can tell by the barcode there. And this one has the ESRB on the cover and also the manual. The manual's even harder to get than the cover. And then this one here, I have signed by Tom Klinsky, who was the president of Sega. Most famous for marketing Sonic and everything back in the 90s in the United States. I met him at a convention many years ago and had him sign my copy. You can see it's signed right there. I do have a signed copy of Sonic 2 as well, but that's in my Sonic Collection display case. Rollo was a bit of a disappointing platformer when I played it. I might give it a chance one day, but I thought it was going to be better than it was. It was a little too janky, and I don't know, it just didn't feel right, the platforming. Something that didn't feel janky when I was younger, and even now, is B.O.B. Bob. We still don't know what Bob stands for, but great cover. Such a classic game from my childhood. Just a lot of fun with this one. Alright, let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anything else here. I guess we can do this shelf next. I don't think we went through this one. The Immortal. Oh my goodness. Talk about another hard game. Love the cover. This is one I tried playing when I was younger and got my butt whooped, but boy did I enjoy all the monster designs. I remember just starting the game and getting eaten by a giant worm or something at the start. I had never seen something like that happen before in a game. I was kind of surprised by that. Alright. Oh, okay. This game here, I forget which console I tried playing it in, but it's got like, you get locked out of playing this unless you're playing it on like an original Model 1 Genesis, I believe, for Onslaught. So I haven't been able to play this, but man, if that cover art isn't just completely awesome. Here's another one that I really recommend, and that is Zany Golf. EA Sports game, I believe, or yes. Fun little golf game. I actually really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting much out of it, but if you're a fan of mini golf, definitely check it out. Only second in line, the Sonic the Hedgehog. I was a huge fan, and still am a huge fan of Bubsy. I think Claw's encounters of the third kind, that pun is just so good. Still one of the best Genesis platformers, and I stand by that. Yes, it's a really hard game, but man, I have so many fond memories with that. Punishing is all heck, though, trying to beat that game. Super punishing. Let's see here. We're getting down towards the end. This shelf down here, I won't pull, well, I guess I will have to pull these games out because they're Japanese imports. So I'll just show you my imports. We've got Star Cruiser. This game's got a really interesting kind of 3D look to it. I played that one a long time ago. Donna, great art. This game used to be really cheap when I got it. Now it's kind of expensive. They don't show you any screenshots. Just an action platformer. Interesting little game. This one here is one of the best ones. A lot of these, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember the names. Some kind of anime action game with bubbles. That's all I remember. Still haven't opened this. I actually bought this in Japan. You can see it still has a little price sticker down there. Still sealed up with their wrap. It's not like a factory sealed Darwin 40. Veritex, probably my favorite import. Love the parallax scrolling in this game. Great shoot 'em up. Definitely play it, import it, whatever you gotta do. Get a play a ROM, whatever the heck, whatever you gotta do to play it. Dinoland, that was pretty fun. I played that a few years ago. Dangerous Seed. Actually, I haven't had a chance to play Dangerous Seed yet, I don't think. Here's another classic from my childhood. Oh, looks like I dusted these a little bit ago. This one missed getting dusted. I'm gonna set that aside so I can dust it. But Quackshot, another game, classic game from my childhood. Let's see. A lot of the games down here are kind of like whatever. Oh, and then we move into my reproductions. So these are reproductions. I got into these reproduction games before it kind of had taken off into what it is now. So we've got like Glaylancer, Eliminate Down, Pulse Man, Battlemania 2, Alien Soldier, Snowbirds, Sonic Mega Mix, Twinkle Tail. This is when these games were like $20 a piece with the box and the cart, before they started, like, while reproductions were still fresh and new and exciting. And then we've also got a copy of Psyoblade over there. So yeah, they were really cheap. They will eventually get moved off of my shelf once I need to make room for other stuff, since, you know, they're not actually official. But they were cheap at the time and a lot of fun. There weren't a lot of reproductions available back then. Time to get up and show you. The 32X collection. So this is a complete US 32X collection. I didn't count it beforehand to make sure that I didn't have a game like sitting off on the side, like if I streamed it one year and put it in a bin or something. But this should be the complete library of US games, complete in the box. Some of my favorites, the Dark Side there is just a reproduction of a game that never came over here to the US. It's really expensive otherwise. Some of my favorites, of course, being Knuckles Chaotix. That copy of RBI Baseball is sealed. I have to probably try and get a unsealed copy, because I don't want to open that. It's one of the rarest ones. I'm a huge fan of Cosmic Carnage. I love the sprite scaling in that game. Really fun fighting game with crazy monster designs. Tempo's pretty good. Virtua Racer I thought was a pretty good port on the 32X. Team Mech, really hard game. Great visuals, great game, but really hard. Oh, this one here I actually kind of recommend, the Motocross Championship game. Let me see if I can grab this. Yeah. Way better than I actually thought it was going to be. It started off really poor, but then I started getting into it. Challenging game. It takes a bit to get used to the sprite scaling, but I had a lot of fun with it. This was the first version of Doom that I grew up with, 32X. I know, poor me. Like, as my own copy. I was able to look past the poor music. I had to make do, you know. And Star Wars Arcade, one of my favorite, if not my favorite Star Wars game of all time. Just amazing visuals. Perfect game to come with my 32X. Colibri, very colorful, very hard though. Really fun, sort of Echo-like. Virtua Fighter, another game that I got with my 32X. Amazing fighting game at the time. Visuals just stunning. World Series Baseball with a $8 price sticker on it. Wow. Yeah, one of the hardest games to get on the 32X. Primal Rage, The Amazing Spider-Man, which is probably now maybe in my top 3 32X games. I've really fallen in love with Amazing Spider-Man. I learned the speedrun for this game, and now I'm able to beat it in like 8 minutes. I found a bunch of glitches and had a lot of fun with it. This game means a lot to me. If you actually search Spider-Man Web of Fire speedrun or SGDQ or pretty much Spider-Man Web of Fire Games Done Quick, you'll find my speedrun of that on the Games Done Quick channel from several years ago. So it means a lot to me, that game. It was my first time at GDQ as well. And then we've got, Metalhead, Pitfall, BC Racers, the normals, and then my carts for some of the games that I just keep out of the box so I don't have to keep opening and closing the boxes. And then we have it. Wow, I need a drink of water. There is my 32X game as of 2020, or 32X game, my Sega Genesis collection as of 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and if you've got any recommendations of your own that maybe you didn't see in my Genesis collection, please be sure to leave a comment below. And leave a like, of course. It helps support the channel if you haven't. And if you want to see more collection videos, leaving a like lets me know that you guys still enjoy this content, and I'll be sure to maybe do it for some of my other consoles sometime. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.